Right, let's get cracking then with this podcast episode of Paul Card Recruitment. Paul, a little bit of an introduction for yourself. You've got about 1 minute. Tell us who you are, what you do, and where you come from.
Challenging 1 minute, Harry. You know I'm a good talker. Paul Card Recruitment. We're based in Wynyard in Teesside. We specialise in finance recruitment, predominantly covering the northeast of England. Team of 6 and established 11 years ago.
Perfect. I thought you might shot in a quick specific referral there from the old B&I days, but I don't know. You just get glued on them things, don't you?
Those days are long gone, but the principles still remain. Absolutely. It's one of the fundamental beliefs that I have. Absolutely. Give us gain.
Yeah, awesome. Right. So obviously we always ask, what's the kind of success quote mantra that you have, which you kind of live by just about every day? Is there something that you are dead set on, or does it vary?
I think it's a mindset of positivity. I think you need to be very resilient to be successful in recruitment. And I'm a massive believer that you hire for attitude and you train the skills. So we've had our greatest success when we've hired people from outside the industry. So one of the things that I look for, which I suppose, as you referred to, maybe is a non-negotiable, is that positive, proactive attitude and that resilience. So yeah, that's some of the things that we test for when we interview for our team. And I think that we've all, made mistakes and had bad hires in our businesses. And it's when that positivity has been lacking that, we've realised that's a non-negotiable.
Why do you think that
this is something we're going to get back to again, isn't it, Harry? There's definitely loops we'll come back to because one of the comments you said there is hiring from external, so out of your industry, so out of recruitment, bringing people in, and that's something we're starting to see a real trend with the successful recruiters that we're working with on the podcast here, because it's just that nugget of okay, so it's not that somebody is pure thoroughbred recruitment blood all through their DNA. It's coming in from different angles. So I like that. I'm sure we'll get more out of you on that one. So go on then, Paul. Give us your sort of your potted history in a couple of minutes, and I dare say we'll chirp in with some other things, saying give us a bit more. Who are you, and why should we care? Go on, give us that journey.
Well, obviously, the podcast is focused around health and well-being, so that's absolutely a journey that we've been on, and fundamentally is one of the reasons we exist. So yeah, I suppose if people wanted to keep on listening, they might get some takeaways of the importance of investing in yourself, the importance of investing in your team, and how health and well-being underpins for us what is our culture, what is our DNA, and links to our vision and our mission. But yeah, the potted history for me, as most people will resonate in recruitment, it's not an industry that you go to university to study, and most people that are successful in it simply fall into recruitment. And I left university with a grand plan to go travelling around the world, picked up a job in sales, which after 3 months, when they wanted to take me from a temporary to permanent member of staff, and I was on 16 grand through the agency, and they offered me 12. We parted company at the end of the week, and I said, no, thanks. And they said, but you've been our best salesman for the last 3 months. I said, I know, so pay me 16 grand. They said, you're only 21, so we can only pay you 12. So I said, okay, thanks very much. We'll move on. Walked into the offices of a big global corporate recruiter. Clearly didn't tell them my intentions to go travelling at Christmas. This was maybe around about August, September. And the plan to go travelling got pushed back because the group that we were going with, we all needed to save a little bit more. But I'd moved back to the northeast and to Norton, which is home. Fell back in with all my mates. Was probably going out 3 times a week, not saving too much. And when push came to shove and it came to crunch, one of my friends in London, she'd saved up 8 grand. One of my mates in Staffordshire, he was working 2 jobs and he'd saved up 6 grand. And I had about 1,500 quid. And they said, we're supposed to go around the world. And I was like, yeah, I'll wave you off at the airport. So they went and I didn't. And I enjoyed a 9-year career with that global corporate recruitment business right throughout the Northeast. Worked up to a relatively senior level, had some good relationships. And then Jude, who's now 11, came along. and he was a difficult baby. And at the time, I was living in Norton and working in Newcastle. And the firm was supportive in terms of being a little bit flexible with regard to where I worked from. So I would work back in the Middlesbrough office where I started on a Monday and a Friday. So there was an element of flexibility and understanding that my life circumstances had changed. But it was still a long week. And at that stage in corporate recruitment, you started at 8:30, you finished at 6 o'clock, and an early finish was 5:30 on a Friday. So, the week was long, and Jude was a difficult baby. My wife, Andrea, was, I wouldn't say struggling, but every day felt like Groundhog Day. It was a phone call at 11 o'clock in the morning. Have you managed to get out? Have you managed to get dressed? And more often than not, it was, no, I've been really struggling to give him his bottle, and I'm still in my pajamas. So, for me, my grandma passed away. My mum kindly gifted me a little bit of money that allowed us to take a bit of stock and take a breather. And I thought, this is the point at life where I need something different. And I left the corporate world looking for a better work-life balance. As many business owners will understand, that's a really difficult thing to find. I now know what I actually found was a work-life integration that worked better for me and better for the family. And yeah, probably even worked longer hours than I did in the corporate world, but with a bit more flexibility. We took a mortgage payment holiday. My wife was on maternity leave at the time. And the first venture out of the corporate world was as a limited company contractor, joined a company that was trying to go through a limited company contractor model. They were unsuccessful at that. My plan was, I'll take 2 years, work out how to run a small business, and then go and do it myself. And actually, after 3 months, my invoices as a limited company contractor were not getting paid. And alarm bells started to ring. And after 6 months, there was 19,000 in unpaid invoices that had accumulated. Fortunately, we'd taken a mortgage payment holiday, which meant we didn't have to pay anything. We were one of those silly people that took out 105% mortgage on Northern Rock when they offered those good old, what were they called? Together mortgages. Together. There was only one person that was left picking up the bill, and it wasn't them. So yeah, we had battled for years, overpaying our mortgage to get ourselves back in a position of out of negative equity. And within that 6 month period of not paying the mortgage, where we literally just paid the bills, as in our household bills, and my invoices weren't getting paid. So it was a tough period, a tough time, but we then plunged ourselves back into negative equity, which was, wonderful. And
sorry to jump in, but this is huge pressure going on the whole time. When the business isn't providing, your other half is also on maternity, so you just got this whole loop of absolute mayhem going on inside your head. And the corporate world, whilst it was wonderful, it had all the security and all those bits, but so there must have been something you did in that time to keep sane, aside of drinking large amounts of alcohol and taking lots of illegal drugs. I hope.
What kept me sane? My wife possibly kept me sane, having a newborn baby. Does that keep you sane? Maybe a lack of sleep didn't help with the focus and the mental clarity at that stage. But no, in fairness, my wife did the night shifts, allowing me to work. She was a brilliant mother, still is. And wow, that element of flexibility, I suppose. So I did find that, okay, I'm working for myself, and if I needed an hour away from the desk just to refocus, and down tools, then unlike the corporate world at the time, which was, where are you going? Like lunch breaks were an hour, allegedly. You either ate at your desk or maybe you went out for a 10-minute walk or something like that. But there was definitely, when I moved into working for myself and being self-employed, a greater work-life balance. But as I say, that also then came with the territory of, we're going to go to Centre Parks. Guess what? If the phone rings, you've got to answer it. Because at the time, I was the only person in my business when we launched, which was the September of that first year. And I was absolutely at the point of, do I just go and get another, job, work for somebody else, go back to what I was always being successful at, good at, and just say, I tried it and I failed? Or do I give it another roll of the dice, do it myself, learn what I've not picked up in the last 6 months, speak to people, how do we run a business, what do we need to do, how do we grow, and where do we get to where I may want to be in the future? And I did. And my wife said, okay, yeah, I get we're 19 grand out of pocket right now. I'm just about to drop down to zero pay. We don't know where the next check is coming from. But what I was able to negotiate with that company.
What's up, guys? This podcast episode is sponsored by Platinum Wellbeing. Platinum Wellbeing is the world's first proactive employee assistance program. They assess health every 3 months using an app, and then they present opportunities to users to access support before the worst happens. They have 24/7 care available, and they offer workouts, learning material, management tools, and so much more. You can even buy meal prep on this app. It's amazing. Go sign up via the link in the description below. Visit www.health-core-international.com/platinum-wellbeing to find out more information on what they can do for your organisation. Platinum Wellbeing can match pretty much every existing deal with a normal EAP, but we can be proactive and offer more support. So head over to the website and see what we can do for you.
Is that there were 2 clients that were due to be invoiced, and I said, look, you owe me 19,000. This is only going one way. You can't make a success of the business. I'm making a success, but I'm not getting paid. So those 2 clients where we've got £8,000 worth of fees due to be invoiced next month, we'll write to them through your brand, introducing my new company, and they will understand, because these are client relationships that I've brought on. I've got to say, after the restrictive covenant period, which is always pretty interesting period of time in recruitment, and Paul Card Recruitment will invoice for those 2 placements. The company that I was working for said okay. Fortunately, the client said okay. So I actually knew that by the end of month 1 of Newco, Paul Card Recruitment, we had 8,000 in the bank. So that took a little bit of the pressure off, because we didn't need a huge amount to survive.
Interesting.
Just going back to what you're saying there, Paul, about work-life integration, that there is what we're all really searching for. But I think a lot of people confuse it with work-life balance, because you leave the door and then you enter home, and that's a different, almost like a different life. It's not necessarily, but it shouldn't really be like that, because I feel like when we're working, we should be working towards our purpose in life, and something that we feel like we really want to do. So when it comes to work-life integration, how were you managing that? Like we were saying, you go into like Centre Parks, you got to pick up the phone. What was the kind of reaction like from Andrew? Was it all like, oh, it's okay, I get it? Or was it like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
Like, get off the phone?
It was. Yeah, it was supportive. It was like, okay, yeah, I get it. That's all right. You're not coming to the swimming pool this morning with the kids, or with Jude as it was, because you've just had a client that's called up a vacancy. I absolutely remember the first 2 vacancies that I got in. I was not supposed to be doing temporary recruitment, but it was a client that knew me, trusted me, has used me for temps in the past, and they said, we need 2 temps. This was Wednesday. We need 2 temps to start on Friday morning. And I was at the point of, I haven't even got my terms of business drafted, let alone trying to find 2 temps to start on Friday morning. So there was a couple of very late nights drafting the temporary terms for the client, drafting the temporary forms and terms of engagement for the and contractor services for the temps. Went to meet them at 7 o'clock on the Friday morning at Morrison's to sign all their paperwork, check all their ID. We'd already taken all their references. Then went to visit the client, signed everything, so all was in place. There were no risks. But that was an interesting couple of 48 hours, a couple of like 4 a.m. and 5 a.m. shifts, trying to adapt. And in fairness, one of the things that I did do well was realise that the REC is a great resource for any new recruitment business. They've got all of their model documents that you can use and adapt, so they've been drafted by a great legal team and their belt and braces approach. And when you're a business in its infancy, that initial investment of the membership cost of the REC paid dividends, because I then had model documents that I could just go through and adapt. It wasn't like drafting a set of legal contracts from scratch that might take weeks. It did take hours. And a couple of late nights.
I just want to jump in with a couple of questions or thoughts I'm hearing here. One is there's a patronising terminology historically of setting up the lifestyle business, because the lifestyle business is something you do between school drop-off and school collection. It's not really but actually we build a business to give us the lifestyle that we want. So surely that is a lifestyle business. And what you're describing there, the flexibility and the adaptability that you couldn't have in the corporate world, but you could in your own world. And yeah, okay, so it did involve a few small wee hours of the night when you're sort of pulling some T's and C's together. But that whole element of that switch to actually, we are trying to create a lifestyle. And obviously now there's a half a dozen employees, and in 2 years' time there'll be 24 employees, and so on. I don't know your growth span, but it's that switch to lifestyle is good, because then we have balance, and if we have balance, then we're performing at home just as much as when we're performing in the workplace, and our staff around us see that working. So therefore they follow as well, because they know that you're not an idiot. You're not going to flog them to death, because self-care and other language like that is a priority.
Yeah, I totally agree. And actual fact, I think there is no harm or shame at all in having a lifestyle business if that's what you want. I think the thing that I was unclear about in the early stages was, what did I want? And I felt pressure to grow was there, because I almost felt maybe inadequate's the wrong word, but like there was an expectation that you needed to grow. And in the early days when when I set up, it wasn't deemed professional or credible to run a business from home, and to run it from the spare bedroom. Whereas I think the pandemic has taught us a lot, and with people's changing attitude to work and work habits, that absolutely is. But I think I see a lot of solopreneurs, as they might be called. So, one-person recruitment businesses being incredibly successful, incredibly profitable, because they have minimal overheads. They accept there is a capacity to the work that they can deliver. And in most successful instances, they're then very choosy about the clients they work with. They command a premium for their service, and they work a small number of jobs, filling a very high percentage, and have a very profitable lifestyle business. And I know people and recruitment business owners that have tried to grow a recruitment business. Managing staff wasn't for them, and they've actually retrenched and said, I'm just going to be a solopreneur and be a really good one.
That's a really good point, that, because you do get to that point where, and you'll both know from talking to the likes of like Dean Fox and stuff, where teaching people who have gone through the job role of doing recruitment or doing even for health and wellbeing, etc., or being an expert in your industry doesn't necessarily make you an expert manager. So
no,
learning when to kind of step back and kind of manage yourself around almost either becoming a completely different person or role, which is managing people, or stepping back and saying, do you know what, I'm a really good recruiter. I'm just going to like solopreneur it, and I'm going to, build up that business, what you've just said there. So I think like it's definitely out there that like there are a lot of people running recruitment businesses who aren't necessarily managers or managers of people, and I think that's a place where there was a lot of struggle with health and well-being, because they're not thinking about the people, they're thinking about the job or the expertise.
Yeah.
How does that filter down from you?
Yeah, I mean, more often than not, I think people that do set up by themselves and take a risk, they're typically the big billers, and they may not have been the team managers. They back themselves because they know how to develop business, win work, and convert work. But like you said, you then find yourself in a world of, okay, not a natural manager. I'm not a business leader. I've never run a company. So you then need to hire the expertise of those people around you and external advisors to gain those skills, or sure as hell put yourself on some kind of courses and read some books as to how to do it better. And that's a steep learning curve. And I made some mistakes in the early days, for sure.
It's interesting because when you look at the journey, there's I know a particular firm local to where I am, and one of his greatest challenges, he's gone down the solopreneur route nowadays because he's had staff over the last 10, 15, 20 years, but because he takes it so personally and puts in so much effort, and the higher billers for him all think, oh, well, I'll do it on my own then. Or so they set up in competition, even though it was only a small firm, or they go and join a large one because they want that additional security. And for him, it was just rankling When Bob's now left, Claire's now left, even his sister left and joined a competition, and you're thinking, what's going wrong here? But actually, the business now is far more sustainable, just in the simple processes, offshoring, virtual support, and everything else. So you've got that's the micro world, and then you've got the large corporates where there's a churn of staff there. So with those extremes, you've experienced both sides. What would be your best advice that you'd throw in there now for organizations or individuals that are sort of in that crossroads space at the moment, and it's kind of what's next?
Yeah, I think have a plan and be clear on what that plan is. I've mentored a few people who have set up recruitment businesses, some of which no longer have those businesses, some of which do. And the one thing I've always said to them, and equally friends who are engineers and employ a couple of engineers or actually by themselves, is just be clear. Have a simple one-page plan and be clear on what you want. Because I think that stigma of I'm a solopreneur sticks initially. I think it's far more acceptable in today's recruitment world that really good people can be solopreneurs. It won't work for every client, and it isn't comfortable for every client. That's okay. But I think the best thing I've learned is be clear on what you want professionally and personally, and have a simple plan that aligns to that. So,
even following that plan, you've then got data. This is one of the things that's why banking and factoring and invoice discounting companies like that love recruitment, because there's so much data. If it's temp, then there's a timesheet. If it's permanent, then there's a contract. If it's a headhunter, then there's a 3-stage billing process. All of that is just so clean and simple. But if you haven't got the plan, you haven't got the processes when you're setting up, then it's not going to work.
Yeah, you can't measure what success looks like. So I've got a friend and he is an engineer, and I actually said to him, because he was, do I grow? Do I stay? What do I do? Do I this? And I said, are you happy? And he said, nobody's ever asked me that question before. And he said, yeah, I think I am. I said, well, you think or you know you are? And I said, so just write down, what does happiness look like? And he said, well, I'm not looking to move house. I don't need a new car. I'm comfortable with the lifestyle I've got. So maybe happiness is just having a little bit more financial security to maintain that lifestyle. So I said, so that's your plan then, isn't it? You've got a plan to be happy. You know what financial number you need in your bank account every month to sustain that happiness. That's your 12-month plan. And he actually, after about 18 months, he went, you know what, Cardi? He said, the best thing you ever said to me was, are you happy? And I realised I didn't need to grow, and I didn't need a team of 10 engineers to make me happy. I just needed a self-sustaining business that gave me that work-life integration, work-life balance. He can play golf when he wants. He can work when he wants. And so long as he's feeding enough work into the pipeline, he's generating enough income to sustain the life he wants.
Look at Paul giving out all the great advice to other people as well as being given it himself.
It's just sharing, mate.
Sharing's caring.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Off the back of that, then, so there's the flip side of that. Throughout your career, and you've had an amazing career to date, what would be one of the worst pieces of advice you've been given? Or this actually came up in the last episode, but it actually flipped around really well. What was one of the worst decisions that you've ever made?
I think it was probably advice I gave to myself and a decision that I didn't take but manifested itself. And I think it's probably around mindset. When I was very small and there was only me and one other, we got to a really profitable place with a healthy bank balance. And, I used to say to myself, you know what, if I don't raise another invoice for another 18 months, I can still live the same lifestyle I'm enjoying now. It's a step up from where I was in the corporate world. I've got all this freedom and flexibility, and I'm all right. And I started to believe that rhetoric, and I think that probably made me a little bit lazy, a little bit complacent, and relatively quickly, burnt through that cash. And that took a while to accumulate. And then you start really thinking, yeah, that was the wrong mindset. That was the wrong message for me to believe. It bred complacency. I had a lack of focus. I wasn't clear on what I wanted.
Subconscious processing of just satisficing that's that horrible business school world of just doing enough to get by. Because the bank balance has got some, so you used the word potentially lazy there. But it's wrong, but bad talk. Yeah,
complacency, isn't it? It kills all of your dreams, isn't it? It's like if you sit still, you're not going to go anywhere.
We've always been, and people listening to this will resonate with the fact that we're a permanent recruitment business. 80% of our revenue is permanent, and that can often mean peaks and troughs. And feast and famine. And the challenge with any permanent recruitment business, unlike temporary, where you built on recurring revenue and adding one temp, losing two, adding two, losing one, adding three, losing one, and you're growing sustainable recurring revenues, whereas a permanent business is feast and famine. And predominantly, it's the life cycle of business development. You have a lack of job opportunities, so you hit the business development trail hard. You get a load of job opportunities in. You then spend the next few months servicing all those vacancies, neglecting business development. You fill all those vacancies, and then you go, where's the pipeline? And that, as a lot of this, the people listening to this will understand, is the challenge in permanent recruitment. Constantly feeding enough opportunities in, having enough conversations, enough meetings, meeting the right people to feed the machine, and therefore having constant, stable, predictable revenues. So
why is it? Do you think that? Why is it you think that every sort of people go for permanent recruitment roles then, as opposed to going for a temp role? If the temp roles is kind of like stacking, like you were saying, with the recurring fees, etc. Why do people go for? Why would you go for a permanent recruitment style?
A number of reasons for that. I think the initial one is you default to what you did in your career. So if you work for the corporate and you're a permanent recruiter like I was, and you found that more comfortable, that's what I did. That's standard. And I think if you're then an early stage startup business, you might not be able to get the invoice finance or back office facilities to support a temporary recruitment business unless you've got significant investment of cash. The bank's not going to lend on a business that has no balance sheet. So that could be an issue for anybody starting up in that world, unless they've got a contract that says, I'm going to place 30 people over the next 6 months and therefore need a financing facility, and that's a guaranteed exclusive supply contract. So that's a challenge. It's what is your client bank and client base like? And then, the margins in temporary recruitment can be very small. That was never so attractive for me.
It's a volume game by comparison, isn't it?
It can absolutely be a volume game. And, if you're entering that space, then you are taking on the big boys who have deep pockets, who can work at lower margins, and you've got to prove significant differential in your service to justify higher margins on the temporary side. So I think,
let's take it back to your team then. So we've described this work-life integration of getting that all right. So in the recruitment world, quality staff, quality recruiters are always going to be highly sought after by our competition. But you've got a good team there. So what is it that you're doing for your team that's keeping them? Why? How are you looking after them better? Yeah. What is it you're doing that's keeping them fresh and saying, hey, this is the place we're staying?
It's a good question because they get headhunted every week. We laugh about it. One of our kind of key competitors, 3 people from that business looked at one of our team all on the same day the other week. I was like, "You're getting an email, aren't you?" So we do have a good team, and they are headhunted regularly. And I think such is the strength of our relationship that they tell me when it's happening. Maybe that's where the pay negotiations start, but it's not usually because as we all know, money isn't everything. And I think the thing that you need as a small business is the non-monetary benefits that can't be replicated by the big boys. Because if money was everything, then people would or may leave. And so, one of the things that was a big game changer for us was post-pandemic when we'd ridden out that difficult storm and hired a couple of new people. I was working to a 5-year plan, but hadn't explicitly shared that plan. And when I actually took the curtains off and the big reveal, what we actually did, there was 2 stages to that process of communicating that, and we came together to redefine our vision, our mission, and then the values. And I was probably the instigator for the vision and what the business has always stood for. So we did have a vision, we did have a mission, and we did have values, but they'd become outdated over the years since they were initially implemented when we were a team of two, and we needed to refresh those. So the first part of that journey was restating the vision, then getting the team to play around with the words and how does that look. So our vision is helping people find happiness at work, because happy people build better businesses and lead more fulfilling lives. So there's two parts to it. But it's all around happiness, and it's all around getting that work-life balance, that work-life integration, because happy people build better businesses and lead more fulfilling lives. So I wanted a vision statement that worked for our team, the businesses we help, clients in our world, as we call them, and the people that we help into employment, so candidates as commonly known. And I believe that vision statement works for all three. We then came up with a mission statement, which was connecting accounting and finance professionals with the best companies in the Northeast. So that holds us accountable to what we do every day. If that client isn't one of the best companies in the Northeast, in our opinion, we don't work with them. If we're asked to do something outside of our swim lane, and it's not accounting and finance, does that align with the mission? So that was useful. And then as a team, we then came up with the values. And what does it mean to us, and what values do we want to hold dear at Paul Card Recruitment? So we have an acronym of people. People can find those on our website. I won't go through to every one of those, but that was what I believed was going to be the glue that would hold us together. And what we then did, 6 weeks later, once we've got that embedded, people are familiar with that, they're comfortable, that's going to be the glue that's going to hold us. I then did the big reveal.
The beautiful things about the Mindful Recruiters podcast is when Harry and I work together, we go into an organisation. You're talking about an organisation that needs to know what's going on with their staff. How many people are flirting with burnout? How many people are getting challenged? What's really going on with the health and well-being of individual staff? Once you then know those numbers, you then need to go to the next step, though, of what are the applied solutions? Do we need some online counselling, or do we actually need to bring in some one-to-one coaching? Do we need to bring in some long-term reinforced support programs, some peer-to-peer groups, some masterminding? That's what the combination of Harry and myself bring into organisations. My world of mental wealth, Harry's world of Teesside health. Those combinations are so powerful because it makes sure that people are really, really focused on what truly matters. And they got data and evidence at the start, and you can see where the improvement is, and we can bring in tangible, clear, black and white ROI on everything we're doing. The value goes up. There's no quick fixes here. In the world of mental health, mental wealth and well-being, it's long-term support that changes the game. No magic pills, but that's what we provide. Long-term support that helps businesses and individuals deal with isolation, deal with focus, and bring their productivity and performance up.
And said, right, and that's our 3-year plan. And we put a gross profit number on it, and I shared how the organisation would change in its structure with the people, and where the people would come in, and the development plans that were available for the people within the business at that time. We then put in a host of enhanced benefits, really to again, reward people. Some financial, some non-financial. One of those was actually a health and well-being plan. So we engaged with Sean Tyson, who Harry knows well. So Sean helped us put in a vitality plan for healthy living and encouraging people to be active and live healthy lifestyles. We put in a cashback plan for medical expenses. So again, putting money back into people's pockets. We put in extended annual leave. So our annual leave at that stage was 25 days annual leave. We then had, after 2 years service, you get a day for every additional year, up to a maximum of 30. So some of our staff now are at the maximum of kind of 30 days plus 8 stats, which is important in a demanding industry, I believe. Yes. We put in sabbatical. So for every 5 years service, you can take a 4-week paid sabbatical, so people get that time to rest, recharge properly on the anniversary of every 5 years, and then we also put in a profit share for everybody, so that there was a fixed amount per head as the business grows, and that's re-evaluated every year, and then the profit every quarter is shared amongst the support staff. So as is common in recruitment businesses, our frontline sales and delivery teams are still rewarded with a commission structure, but then the rest of the teams, the support staff that helps facilitate the magic, they benefit from a profit share.
Love what you've done there, Paul,
Nice.
because what you've got there is you've clearly laid out earlier there that you've got a clear vision, values, mission with the business and with the people within it, the people in that office. And that creates a culture of like, we are one, like everybody is part of Paul Card, everybody is Paul Card Recruitment, and everybody moves forward together. It's not kind of like a one leads and the rest kind of get dragged along or whatever. It's a very together culture, and you've got that tight-knit culture, a place where people can talk, a place where people can get support when they need it. And then you've doubled it up with all the health benefits. So what you've actually mastered there is health with all your benefits and all your support, and well-being. And that's how people feel when they walk in the door. So you've managed to actually you're making them coexist. And what a lot of our clients struggle sometimes to conceptualize is they have to coexist. You can't just do a load of one and not have the other. So you've got some companies who'll do a load of health benefits and then still treat their staff like rubbish. But then you'll get ones that do everything and give people like unlimited holidays and make them feel amazing in the office and part of the team, but they won't have any backup. So what you've done there is put them both together and married them up, and then you've truly represented health and well-being within your business. I really like that.
Harry, the language there of the coexistence, because there's many a business that will spend thousands on designing a mission statement, vision statement, and all the other statements they can have. They've got a beautiful plan that goes in the bottom drawer and never comes out. But if it's not reinforced and balanced, that coexistence with how we work on a day-by-day basis, how you incentivize, be that sort of from a well-being and mental side of things through to the cash side of things, through to the annual leave and everything else. I got one company I work with at the moment, and they have there is no holiday allowance marker. You take what you want, but you're part of a team and you have to deliver. But it means that certain people, they've tried to kind of work full part-time. They said, no, that's not how this works. But then 6 weeks holiday they've taken, but the work still goes on, the team still works, and they all pull together more because so-and-so is going off for the next 6 weeks. They're going around South America, and because one of the things in the recruitment industry, it's not, but it can be a younger person's world because of the hunger and the passion and the focus. So therefore, you've got to make sure that those people are looked after, otherwise they go. So how do you feel about it being a younger person's world, bearing in mind you are no longer 21 and everybody else in there? How does that work for you?
So we have a nice balance with our team. I absolutely agree. I think the relatively low barriers to entry within the industry are often the reason why it can be perceived to be a young person's game, if you like, because I say you don't need a degree to be a recruitment consultant. And I think that a lot of people burn out very quickly in recruitment. The statistics, the last ones that I looked at were probably no better than they were 20 years ago, in terms of the amount of people that come into the industry and versus the amount of people that stay in the industry after 12 months. It's an industry that a lot of people try and don't enjoy and move out. And even successful ones can quickly become burnt out if they're not looking after themselves and if there isn't that health and well-being focus and clear strategy. How do we manage a fairly broad range of ages quite successfully and quite well, I think. So we have people that are part-time with reduced days. We have people that work school hours. And one of the things we've always had was a very agile and flexible policy in terms of working. So right before that vision, mission, values, enhanced opportunities, benefits piece, we've always had a flexi time policy. So our core hours are between 10 till 4 and 10 till 3 Monday to Friday. But technically, we wrote a policy that enables anybody to work from 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night. And strictly, we don't need to monitor that. We don't police it. We do monitor people's working hours from the point of view, do they accrue a day in lieu? So that's one of the other things that we also have as part of that flexible flexi time policy is where you are working over a day any one month, you get a flexi day and a day off in lieu to use the following month. So we've again, I suppose I'll go back to where I started my journey, looking for that work-life balance is very difficult to achieve, but a work-life integration is much easier, and giving people the freedom and the flexibility to achieve that through working practices, working methods. So, for example, the pandemic was a difficult period, but actual fact, we already had all the IT equipment in place. So everybody had soft phones, everybody had a mobile, everybody had laptops, everybody had second screens in the office and at home. So when everybody else was clambering around, paying over the odds for IT equipment because it was in short supply, we just said, "Hey guys, just work at home tomorrow. We'll work out what's going to happen by the end of the week." We didn't go back to use the new office that we took the keys for the day that Boris announced lockdown for about 18 months later. But to answer your question where you started, how do we manage that? I think, and that flexible approach to working policies and working practices enables people to prioritize their own life as well as their work. So people in our team that don't have children that want to walk the dog, no problem. They do that on an extended lunch break. And again, we don't police that core hours rigidly. If there's
it's investing. This is all about investing in those staff, and the poor management invest in the staff and they'll leave. Well, no, actually fail to invest in them and they'll stay. You want the good people to stay and stick, and that's what you're doing, and you're getting great support from all areas. From the numbers are showing it, from the delivery through to the fact that the staff are there and they're clearly happy. Otherwise, they wouldn't be with you. What about the bookshelf, Harry? What
just going to ask that, Paul. What would you recommend as a book to read for any of our listeners so that they can repeat the same journey that you've been in terms of success?
Yeah, so there's loads. One that, and again, I'll come back to the main one that I think has probably had the biggest impact on our business. But the audio book that I'm listening to at the minute is The Advice Monster, or The Advice Trap. Sorry, that's a follow-up to The Coaching Habit, Michael Bungay Staniers. And the principle of that is being more coach-like, and 7 questions to stay curious, stay humble, be more coach-like, and change the way you lead forever is the subtext of that book. That's a really good one. People haven't come across that. But probably the biggest impact for me in my business is the 12-week year. And that is a principle by Brian Moran. And effectively, it's quite applicable to our industry and a sales-led business because it breaks down the annual cycle into... The secret is it's actually 13 weeks because you have a 13 week, which is
90 days.
Mop up, reflect, reset, refocus, renew. But it's the accountability and the productivity gains from adopting that model in our business that's had the biggest impact.
Amazing. That's some really good recommendations. You know what? Each guest who says this it's one that I've never heard of, so I'm like eager to
it's really good
to get looking. And I know as well how much the age-old The Secret had influenced a lot of your success from conversations we've had in the past. So obviously manifestation and things like that has been a real big player for you, and I know that's that'll be a big contributor.
This year I'm trying the Miracle Morning.
Yes,
which is
Hal Elrod. Yeah, great one. That one. That's a concept that I've actually integrated into my app. So we do your 10-minute meditation in the morning, and then you press through the next step, and then it gives you affirmation and visualization as an actual thing to fill out what you're going to do that day. Right. You get it back as a report, an exercise session, and then you do a reflection and scribe based on savers. So it's an actual process you can use on the app that we have. So that's a really good book that I highly recommend. That one. Are you going to jump in any ice baths?
Do you know what? I'm actually mean to research the benefits of cold water therapy. So I use it after. So I play squash, as you know, and after a hot shower, I'll always have a cold shower. That refreshes. But I'm tempted. I'm tempted with the ice bath.
I'll tell you what's a good one then. A good book for you is the Wim Hof method. That would be a really good one. He is the OG of ice therapy. He holds the record for the longest time surviving in a block of ice. Guess how long?
12 minutes.
It's like 12 hours.
Really?
12 hours.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
using breathing techniques, and he goes into the science of it, and it's brilliant. So it's really worth a good read, that one. I read it in Portugal, which was in warmer weather and warmer water, but I did try 15 seconds showers.
So are you doing ice baths yourself then?
Yes.
Nope. He does. I don't. I hate the cold.
A couple of weeks ago, we were breaking the ice to get in.
Yeah.
I bet you were. Yeah, I bet.
It's kind of scary, but hey, that's another topic for another day. I'm sure we can go into all sorts of rants on that. I mean, from my perspective, Paul, thank you so much for your ideas and your thoughts here, because it's just following your journey and what's going on, and one of the challenges I find with everybody that we interview, they don't realize how much they've covered or how great their nuggets are, because it's just me. It's what I do. It's what I've done. It's where I've screwed up. It's where I've been successful, and it's what I've learned from it. But for other people, whether they be C-suite in a corporate recruitment firm going for broke, or they're just kicking off in their own solopreneur or small business and getting that work, everybody in between, there are little gems in there, which is, okay, yeah, I don't do that. I should do that. I hadn't thought of that way. And that's why we do the bookshelf as well, because just finding little nuggets with it, because people listen through Audible or through the big bookworm readers, everything in between. So thank you for all the nuggets you've shared there. And I'll ask Harry to close in a minute, but my one close that I'm asking from you, Paul, is what's the one thing? The one thing that you would challenge the audience to go and do now as a result of what we've been listening to?
For me, the biggest impact, or one of the biggest impacts, is getting a coach, getting an external advisor to support you on your journey, no matter what that journey is. I was actually listening to Wimbledon one year, and Andy Murray, who had a dietitian, a technical coach, a fitness coach, a masseuse, and realizing that top sportsmen don't become top sportsmen without having a plethora of individual, unique specialist advisors. And that, for me, helped break the barriers. Having an accountability partner, somebody who'd been there, seen it, done it, got the T-shirt, not specifically in the recruitment industry, but knew the right questions to ask, to challenge my thinking, to lead me outside the comfort zone, and to share the deepest, darkest secrets of the challenges and overcome those, was a big turning point for me. So I think that if anybody is sat there and they don't have that external non-exec director, coach, accountability partner, somebody that looks you in the eye and asks you the difficult questions you don't want to ask yourself, get one.
Love it.
Fantastic.
Big fan of that.
Great advice, Paul. I really like that. And you're so right. Getting a coach, even coaches need coaches. And that's what I've always lived by. So thank you very much for coming on the Mindful Recruiters Playbook. I hope the listeners have really enjoyed listening to Paul today. You can follow Paul on social media. You can follow him on LinkedIn at Paul Card Recruitment. Any other socials, Paul?
Instagram, Paul Card Recruitment, X, Paul Card Recruit, LinkedIn, Paul Card Recruitment, or drop us a message on our website. Happy to answer any follow-up questions. Happy to share my journey with anybody. Really collaborative. So if anybody wants to reach out, feel free. And for what it's worth, I'll give you my insights.
Perfect. Thanks, Paul. Amazing. And you can follow us on LinkedIn, the Mindful Recruiters Playbook, and on YouTube, Spotify, and Apple Podcasts. Please give us a 5-star review, because me and Mike really need it for our egos and our viewers. Thank you, Paul. And goodbye, everyone. See you in the next one.
Cheers. Take care.